всех подвергли, конечно. Да. А,
Thanks for checking out GuitarTricks.com recently. For a short time, when you sign up, you'll get an awesome discount on an annual subscription when you use code ONLY.
For more than 7 months, coronavirus has taken countless joys away from us, among them attending concerts such as Dave Matthews and the Dave Matthews Band. Joining me now, someone very familiar with the stage, Dave Matthews. Dave, thanks so much for joining us. First of all, let's just talk about something that a lot of people probably don't even think about. Concerts are such a source of not just excitement and happiness for attendees, but also a livelihood for the people who work at these venues. Explain the impact this pandemic has had on the live music industry.
I guess it's like a lot of industries that rely on people gathering. I mean, I feel very lucky because I've been successful and sort of can cross a incomeless period of time and survive it. But most of the musicians I know and all the crews and all the local crews and club owners and theaters, all of these people, I mean hundreds of thousands of people, bartenders and stage crew, local crew, traveling crew, all these people are out of work, and it really is terrible. It's just people trying to think of how they're going to hang on, and then what happens when things open up, and when are they going to open up? It really is a precarious place for an entire industry, and then also obviously the fan experience and that sort of how this is going to affect that engagement. It's the thing I love. I'm grateful, but I'm really sorry that so many people have been badly affected by this.
Yeah, and I wonder what it's like for you when you see Trump and Pence completely ignoring health regulations and rules and liability and holding these massive events where there's no masks, no distancing, events that you don't hold because you don't want your supporters to get infected, and even if you wanted to, you wouldn't be allowed to.
Yeah, it's very disappointing, because this sort of disregard for science and disregard for the health of people and disregard for even his own, I suppose it's his greatest followers that are willing to go into an environment. But it does tell everybody, don't really worry about this, believe what you will about it. That's what I feel. But I also feel like there's a whole industry of people that are being denied work, and it's almost like it's a disregard for what's happening. It's just playing by your own rules taken to a really absurd and kind of insulting, obviously selfish degree. It just makes me think he doesn't have much interest in the truth or in helping out with the struggle of people haven't been blatant about it. I'm more important than anyone else,
You've come out in support of Democratic nominee Joe Biden. You're part of the Get Out the Vote initiative, trying to make sure every American takes advantage of their right to vote, regardless of who they choose to support. What makes this election in particular so important for you?
Well, I think the world has been sort of moving toward this, or in a scary direction of where we've started to play with this sort of lack of reality and questioning science and questioning truth and alternative facts, these kind of things, and it's pretty scary. And I think the age of reason is being challenged by an age of ignorance, and as if they are equal partners. And I think Joe Biden doesn't represent all my beliefs by a long stretch, but the direction that his leadership would take the country would be at least toward trying to again turn the country into a place that listens to the science and listens to the medical industry and listens to the people that know you know, that have an idea of what's happening. You let the experts be the experts in their relative, you know, industries. I think it's unfortunate that we're in a place right now where it's believe what you will, which is kind of scary. So I feel like the country needs to at least right itself and start looking in a consistent direction and move according to the advice of people that have an understanding of what's going on.
For more than 15 years, you've worked with a group called Headcount, which promotes voter registration. 1/3 of all registered voters, a record 79 million people, have already cast their vote. Do you think, based on your conversations with people, do you think this election holds a different weight for voters that you've spoken to than previous elections?
I think, you know, I always get disappointed when I hear about how many people in America turn out to vote. When I lived in South Africa for much of my life, I was born there, but when Mandela was elected president, the first open and free election in that country, like closer to 100%, over 95% of the population turned out to vote. And these are, in many cases, people who had to walk miles and miles and miles to get to polling stations and wait in enormous lines. And so it was a testament to the commitment to the country and also the belief in the power of the vote. What I am very excited that more than half, a number like if it's 79 million now, that's more than half of the total votes in the last election, in the last presidential election, which is pretty exciting. It makes me think that's working. In 79 million now, that's more than half of the total votes in the last election, in the last presidential election, which is pretty exciting. It makes me think that's working. I feel like I feel as if sometimes we forget that if we don't use that one part of our voice, you know, by casting our vote, we leave potentially the future of the country in the hands of people that we might disagree with profoundly. So let them, if the majority of the people believe that we should be moving in a certain direction, but they don't cast their votes, then a minority or even sometimes a fringe group of people will decide the future of the country. And I think that's desperately sad and very dangerous too.
What's your message to Americans who might be watching right now who might not be in love with either candidate and just think, well, I'm just not going to vote. I don't like either one of them.
I'm not wildly in love with either of the candidates, although I have met both of them, and I have to say Biden is a much more charming man. But in some ways, Trump is very charming too, but in a very different way. He told me he thinks I was going places. But Joe,
That's true, though.
he told me he thinks I was going places. But it's very charming too, but in a very different way. He told me he thinks I was going places. But Joe,
That's true, though.
Joe,
Fact check true.
You know, and that was true, but you know, it wasn't that long ago. So I thought it was very nice of him. But I always felt Biden was very serious about his role in this country and always open to learning and always admitting where maybe he was wrong. I think he's a very compassionate person. I don't agree with him everywhere. What I do think about is the direction the country's going in. And I think the reason you want to vote is because you want to be part of what's steering our future. And you know, if young voters went out, they would decide. Maybe the first step is Biden toward a future that's more you know, open and encompassing the needs of everybody. You know, rather than I believe he speaks to inclusion, and I think young people are about that. And so, if young people went out and voted, they could change the direction of the country, and then move it again, and move it again, and that's what it's all about. You know, and so cast your vote so you can be part of readying or directing the ship. I think it's the most important part of a democracy, I think.
Dave Matthews, thank you so much, and your music has helped get me through this pandemic, so thanks on behalf of a lot of people, I'm sure, for that as well.
Well, thank you very much for saying that, and I always enjoy seeing you as well, and thank you for your information.
Thanks, Dave.
Каждый может поменять профессию, даже если сложно. Программистом я захотел.
Well, today I would just like to answer a couple of questions that have come in. One is a common question that I've gotten from lots of people, and that is, given these technical principles, people often ask, what should I play? Are there exercises, are there particular compositions that I should be playing? That's very difficult to answer. Let's think of it this way. Let's say that
each motion serves a different function, but unless they merge, collaborate, and partner, a healthy functioning technique cannot exist. Also, without them, the other motions that are needed to complete the process would be malfunctioning. So this is like building a house on a strong or a weak foundation. This is a foundation. It's never just that, but it's that important. And that's why I thought to show you and show a few examples how knowing about that immediately affects music. Because everything that we do, that you see we do separately, has to do with how we put pieces into our hands. When correctly understood and done, the result of this union is incredible freedom of motion to go wherever you need to go without straining. Traditionally, it is thought that fingers alone move up and down, usually isolated, sideways, and then press down into the keys. In other words, what we see is finger motion, so it's always, and there is finger motion, so it's always thought to be only finger motion. With the Taiwan approach and the knowledge that we have with it, that comes with it, we know that there are several directions involved in playing, such as up and down, going to right and left, going in and out, into the blocky area and out. And when the fingers alone are called on to do all these jobs, problems result. They just can't do it. We tell you that curling the fingers creates tension, right? I mean, anyone can do that just by curling your fingers. It's hard to move them, and it already pulls on the long flexors, which goes over the wrist, it tightens it, the result is tension. And that is true of everybody. So if we play the thumb and we don't curl so that the fingers can move freely, and there is no tension, the other fingers land in the blocky area, right? Now, the moment we go from 1 to 2 to the second finger, the thumb is a short finger. Can you see it on the left camera? So that you have the thumb, which is a short finger, going to the white key, which is a longer finger. So we know that there are several possibilities. If nothing moves, the fingers will have to curl, which is what people do. Right there is tension. Or if you don't do that, another possibility is people twist. Okay? So just going from 1 to 2 on 2 white keys can ruin a technique, and often does. But it's the whole issue of how do we keep the fingers in the natural curve, which is where they can move the freest. There's no tension ever if they move this way and don't change. They don't work well in a curled way, in a straight way. So I just wanted to show that right here, as I do it, Now, as I do it, there are also shapings, getting a little bit higher and a little bit lower, and that's a whole other subject with its own rules. So all I want to tell you, show you that that's what I'm doing, and if you want to know more about it, first of all, you're going to all the morning lectures, and then we have it also on DVDs and in your private sessions. See, I move out, out, back into the thumb, out, so that those fingers and land on the white keys. Move a little bit in on the 4, 5, out, out, in, out. If I didn't have the rotation, I wouldn't be able to get to this note. So I have to have the rotation and then move out. And faster, to know more about it, first of all, you're going to all the lower, and that's a whole other subject with its own rules. So all I want to tell you, show you that that's what I'm doing, and if you want to know more about it, first of all, you're going to all the morning lectures, and then we have it also on DVDs and in your private sessions. See, I move out, out, back into the thumb, out, so that those fingers and land on the white keys. Move a little bit in on the 4, 5, out, out, in, out. If I didn't have the rotation, I wouldn't be able to get to this note. So I have to have the rotation and then move out. And faster, so do you see that in order to move fast, we don't stop moving? We move the minimal amount with the right motions. But there is a world of motion there. Okay? I always say it's really like going under the sea. The sea can look very, very calm. And people get in. First of all, when you dive, you see a whole other world, right? There's a whole other world in which they keep exploring. Another thing, sometimes when I grew along the sea, and the sea sometimes would look very, very calm. And once a week, somebody would drown. Because they would go in and there would be undertows, but you couldn't tell. It was all happening underneath. So when you see calmness, like nothing is happening, a lot is happening. A lot is happening, but it's all happening underneath the surface. What you see on the surface is mild waves, little waves. But it's no indication of what's there. So what we do is really dive in with this work. We dive in and we explore. And you know how they keep going down further, a few miles, you know, inching in and discovering more. That's this work, and I would say any body of knowledge.
Hello everyone. In this video I'm going to show you the basics of a correct piano posture. If you're watching this video on YouTube, make sure you also visit my website pianocareer.com, where I will explain in a written form all the instructions that you're about to see now. In order to have a correct, relaxed, confident and comfortable posture at the piano, you need to keep in mind 5 basic things. The first one is your attitude. Yes, I'm serious, and yes, I think that by having a positive attitude, by having a calm and confident state of mind, you're going to increase your productivity and really enjoy all the time that you spend at this amazing instrument. The second element of a correct piano posture is the piano bench. Here the rule is very simple, just keep the golden middle. Not too low and not too high, not too close to the instrument and not too far from the instrument. To make sure that you've adjusted the height of your bench properly, just place your hands on the keyboard and make sure that first, you can reach the keyboard, you're not too far. Second, that your elbows are not pointing backwards, so you're not too close to the instrument. You need to be at a comfortable distance that will allow you to reach all the keys. And of course, regarding the height, you need to make sure that your elbows are aligned with the keyboard. At the same time, I'm going to tell you a little secret. If you think that you lack physical power and it's hard for you to control the quality of the sound, to play something with a very big sound volume, then you can keep your elbows by adjusting your bench slightly, only slightly higher than the level of the keyboard. And this way you will have leverage that will allow you to fully control the quality of the sound and the depth of your key attack. The third element of a correct piano posture is your back. Here again we have a very simple rule. Always try to keep your back as straight as possible. A straight back has many benefits. First of all, it will
Starting out with any new project management software usually feels something like this. Where do you even start? Well, you've probably got...
He's not himself. Something is going on because he's struggling.
Maybe I'll ask Rudy to say a few words. Well, thanks, Rudy.
He's literally sitting right in front of you.
It is even hard to watch. The confusion.
What we saw at Pleasure. What a name right now. But what we just saw, we just left Pleasure for Paradise.
Frankly, it is even hard to watch.
Every vice president.
The inability to finish thoughts.
Decided to shield and shelter criminal. Look, wait.
The burst of outrage and anger.
That's enough. That's enough. That's enough. That's enough. Pardon me, put down the mic. Mr. President.
He has some verbal problems that are becoming a little bit more noticeable.
By an anonymous, really an anonymous, and God bless the United States.
Easily identifiable cognitive decline.
And that's how the First Lady got involved. She's got a son together that is a beautiful young man.
Even for his supporters who are worried that he might say something that doesn't make sense.
They take a shower and water comes dripping out. It's dripping out, very quietly dripping out. People are flushing toilets 10 times, 15 times.
They are so worried about him speaking off the cuff.
You got to see this guy. I don't know what I said. I don't remember.
The weird things that he says.
If you have a windmill anywhere near your house, they say the noise causes cancer.
This is just kind of odd. Who swears at a voter like this?
Son of a bitch. Bullshit. Shit. He's a pussy.
When you watch it, you use the word uncomfortable. It is uncomfortable to watch. Something is going on. It's concerning to me. Something is wrong.
You've really put a big investment in our country. We appreciate it very much, Tim Apple.
It's not looking good. There's something off there, and how many gaffes can you make every single day? If my father were making the same gaffes as he was, they would literally invoke Article 25 of they would try and remove him from office.
You have never stopped working to improve this country, and you deserve a government.
Когда ты третий, ты понимаешь, что нельзя останавливаться. Ведь ты уже в тройке лидеров, и значит, ты должен двигаться быстрее других. В стране, которая гордится своим прошлым.
Oh, she's being very politically correct. Whoa.
That's after the president's son dismissed the severity of a pandemic that killed nearly 1,000 people yesterday alone.
I kept hearing about new infections, but I was like, well, why aren't they talking about this? Oh, because the number is almost nothing.
Joe Biden, on his busiest day of campaigning yet, hoping his pandemic message helps build back a blue wall in the Midwest.
I'm not going to shut down the economy. I'm going to shut down the virus.
Biden's campaign also on offense in states that went red in 2016, like Iowa and Texas. That's where Senator Kamala Harris became the first member of a Democratic ticket in decades to campaign there this close to Election Day.
Today is the last day of early voting in Texas. We want to make sure we see it through.
If everything really is bigger in Texas, that includes early voting. A staggering 9 million people have cast ballots already, more than everyone who voted there in all of 2016.
Go vote. Yes. People need to go out and vote because that's the only way we're going to make a difference.
Nationally, more than 82 million people have voted early in person or by mail, already 60% of the total 4 years ago, even with 4 days to go.
This is not a joke. So this is very serious for people to get out here and vote.
Before Tuesday, President Trump set to hold 14 more rallies in 7 states. And Joe Biden's looking for his own big finish with some big names. Tomorrow, holding his first in-person events with former President Barack Obama, Stevie Wonder joining too. Lester.
All right, Hallie Jackson, thank you. And the importance of Minnesota underscored with both candidates there tonight. NBC's Garrett Hake is in Rochester. Garrett, for the president, not the kind of rally he envisioned.
Lester, tonight the candidates are skirmishing in a state no Republican has won since 1972. Donald Trump came within 44,000 votes of flipping Minnesota 4 years ago. He's had his eye on the state ever since. Joe Biden is also here tonight playing a little bit of defense. He leads by an average of about 4.5 points in the polls here. As in many other places, COVID hangs over everything here. The state broke its record for new cases yesterday, and it's also forced the president to abandon his typical large-scale rallies in favor of this smaller event, capped at just 250 people to comply with local regulations. Lester?
All right, Garrett, thank you. Despite the president's almost constant claim that we're rounding the turn in this pandemic, the numbers speak for themselves, with another 90,456 cases reported just yesterday. Miguel Almaguer tonight on the deepening crisis.
Tonight, as coronavirus cases surge across the country, hospitals are on the brink, filled with patients like Carmen Lerma in hotspot Wisconsin.
It gave me fibrosis on both my lungs.
She's recovering after battling COVID-19 for months and undergoing a rare double lung transplant.
Some people are lucky and blessed to just have those symptoms as a flu. Some of us are not so lucky.
Each day, the numbers are more staggering. Some 90,000 new cases reported yesterday, a new infection every second.
We're facing a surge in the midst of people telling us that we shouldn't be afraid of COVID.
In Chicago, restaurants shutting down indoor dining again. And in El Paso, Texas, where hospitals are overwhelmed, a legal battle over a judge's order to close all non-essential services for 2 weeks. It's not just lives, but livelihoods on the line. Today, California Governor Gavin Newsom taking a rapid test at this new facility that will double the state's testing capacity.
Why is testing, in your view, key to opening schools and opening businesses again?
It's the fastest route to actually know where you are. What gets measured gets done, and the fundamental challenge we have in this nation is we don't have a national testing protocol.
But it's taken months to ramp up testing, time Stacy Silva didn't have. She lost her father, Gary, in March.
I took it for granted that my dad was going to be here for who knows how long. And now I don't have him.
An empty seat at the holiday table as more Americans share an immeasurable heartbreak. Miguel Almaguer, NBC News.
Across Europe, new lockdowns went into effect today as COVID cases surged there. And in France, there has been a mass exodus from Paris, causing hours-long backups. Matt Bradley is in Paris. Matt, what's it like?
Lester, we're less than 24 hours into France's month-long lockdown, and before it all began, there was a sea of taillights as Parisians flocked to the countryside. Now this time, schools and offices will remain mostly open, and a similar lockdown light comes into effect in Germany on Monday. Now in response, some anti-lockdown protests here in France have turned into riots, and all this comes as COVID cases in Europe spike. France seeing as many as 50,000 new cases per day. Lester?
All right, Matt, thank you very much. Still overseas tonight in Turkey, at least 17 people are reported dead and hundreds injured after a powerful earthquake. NBC's Richard Engel with late details now.
This is one of at least 20 buildings that crumbled like sandcastles in the Turkish city of Izmir. The deadly quake hit just before noon, sending this video gamer scrambling. The epicenter was shallow between Turkey and the Greek island of Samos. It raised a small tsunami that rushed ashore, turning Izmir and areas nearby into rivers clogged with debris. At least one death was caused by drowning. But some good news tonight. Several people have been rescued from the rubble.
The region is prone to earthquakes. The danger tonight, aftershocks. Lester?
All right, Richard Engel tonight, thanks. In California, actress Lori Loughlin reporting to a federal prison today to begin serving her sentence for her part of the college admissions cheating scandal. Our Stephanie Goss tonight on what she faces.
Lori, pay for my tuition, Lori!
If Lori Loughlin ever felt it was a good idea to scam the college admission process, those days are surely over. Today, the Full House actress turned herself in to serve 2 months in a California federal prison, part of a sentence that includes a $150,000 fine and 100 hours of community service. She and her husband, Mossimo Giannulli, pleaded guilty to conspiracy and wire fraud after paying $500,000 to get their daughters into USC and lying on their applications, falsely touting the girls as elite crew recruits. Loughlin was among the most high-profile defendants charged in the criminal case. Fellow actress Felicity Huffman pleaded guilty to her role and served 11 days in the same prison. The college admissions scandal triggered outrage across the country and implicated some of the most prestigious schools. Many called the bribery scheme a symptom of a failed system that has long favored the wealthy. In August, Loughlin told the court, "I went along with a plan to give my daughters an unfair advantage. I'm profoundly sorry." The judge accused her of living a charmed life and still grabbing for more. Loughlin says she is ready to make amends. Stephanie Gosk, NBC News.
In Kentucky, a police officer involved in the raid that left Breonna Taylor dead has sued her boyfriend, Kenneth Walker. Sergeant Jonathan Mattingly claims Walker inflicted battery, assault, and emotional distress by shooting him. Walker says he thought the officers were intruders. No charges were brought against any officer in connection with Taylor's death. A new warning from federal authorities that Iran has successfully obtained voter registration data in at least one state. And there's alarming new evidence Russian hackers may be trying to meddle again. Tom Costello takes us inside the U.S.'s command center and their effort to prevent interference.
U.S. sources say the Russian military intelligence hackers known as Fancy Bear that targeted the Clinton campaign in 2016 are at it again, this time targeting Democratic State Party email accounts in California and Indiana and U.S. think tanks. At Homeland Security's Cybersecurity Election Command Center in Virginia, analysts coordinate with the FBI, the military, and 8,800 election officials nationwide.
I'm concerned about everything. I'm a bit paranoid, and so until this thing gets put to bed, I'm, hair on my neck standing up.
Last week, the DHS unit said a Russian state-sponsored attacker had conducted a campaign against a wide variety of U.S. targets, stealing data from at least 2 servers, though the FBI says it has no evidence to date that integrity of elections data has been compromised. Cyber intrusion detection sensors now sit on every state election network looking for hackers.
So we're looking for any kind of tremor in the force, as it were.
Because the U.S. election systems are so dispersed, cyber pros believe it's unlikely a single attack would be successful. But if hackers alter just a handful of voter party affiliations, it could undermine public confidence in the vote. The good news? More than 92% of the country's ballots will have paper backups.
If there's any question about the accuracy of the vote count, as a nation, we have now paper records and the ability to roll back the tape.
The biggest hack threat continues to be that an election worker somewhere will open a suspicious email and click on a bad link, letting hackers in. Lester?
All right, Tom Costello, thanks. Now to concerns over how difficult it can be for some to vote. We spoke with a man who's been pushing to expand voting rights for 60 years. Our Cynthia McFadden asked how worried is he about voter suppression.
Tonight, a question. Do all eligible voters, regardless of their race, have an equal shot at casting their ballots? We turn to 92-year-old Reverend James Lawson.
Voter suppression isn't, sadly, a thing of the past.
Oh, yes, it's a continuation of USA history.
Reverend Lawson says long lines, ID requirements, the purge of voter lists, and reduced access to ballot drop boxes makes voting harder than it should be. especially for people of color.
It's a form of racism.
Our power has always been in ourselves.
Racism is something he's fought against nonviolently his whole life. Martin Luther King Jr. called him one of the noblemen in their quest for equality.
Registering to vote became a primary issue from day one. A black person could lose everything by registering to vote,
including their lives, which is why he says it hurts so much to see that voter suppression is still with us 55 years after the passage of the Voting Rights Act. He cites Texas Governor Greg Abbott's October decision that voters will have only one place to return their mail-in ballots in each county. The governor says it will enhance ballot security. Lawson says it will hamper minority voting, as some of the counties with huge minority populations are as big as eastern states.
It's absolute suppression, repression. It follows the plantation owners of the 1870s who used bullets and guns to stop the voting. He's using the technique of voting to stop the voting.
Governor Abbott's order was struck down by a Texas state court, but 3 federal judges in the Fifth Circuit, all appointed by President Trump, approved the governor's plan, as did the Texas Supreme Court earlier this week, ruling it doesn't disenfranchise anyone.
Democracy, like ours, is dependent upon the character and the courage of people.
And yet, with the anger in the air this year,
Почему я сейчас не забыл? Это поражение. Почему я сейчас сел? Это поражение. Почему я сейчас... Где мои победы? Все было осознать, что и поражение, это уже... Еще лучше осознать, какой ты интересный человек, кто интересно говорит. В лучшем случае отвлечение от философии. Ну это ты можешь, да, гипотетически так. Как, так як, естественно. То есть, естественно, обязательно нужно крюк. Ну, нет, крюк, где пошел мне? Offended. Maybe, just maybe, педагоги. Вот смотри, да. Значит, надо пройти эти тесты дурацкие как можно быстрее, залить туда денежку, получить свой диплом, да, но это имеет в виду, ну там, да. Нет, работать нужно работать тогда. Нет, уезжаешь тогда, да. Нет. Это не имеет в виду себя, да. Да, да. Ну, за границей ты такой не нужен. Ты о чем вообще говоришь слово? Я понял, да. Понять не можешь, надо спать ложиться. Ну нет, ну одеваться, ну нет, ты спать, ну я понял, да. Это мой вариант. Да. Это лучше, чем время сидеть. Ладно, ладно.
On both sides, Reverend Lawson offers this reminder to each of us.
Eye for an eye increases blindness. It doesn't, therefore, increase sight and vision. Evil for evil escalates and increases evil.
Which is why he says everyone must do all they can to cast their ballots. Cynthia McFadden, NBC News.
In just 60 seconds, how to vote safely on Election Day. With early voting still in progress in many places and Election Day around the corner, Gabe Gutierrez reports on how to stay safe casting your ballot.
These aren't lines for COVID testing. It's politics during a pandemic.
It's very tough here.
Cheryl McAfee was among the first to vote early in battleground Wisconsin. She got COVID earlier this year. Her brother died from it.
Nothing was going to stop me. I'm here for me and my brother.
As we head into this final stretch, many others are still questioning whether going to crowded polling places is safe. The CDC offers some guidelines. Before you vote, plan to go to the polling place during off-peak hours, such as mid-morning, and fill out a sample ballot first at home, so you spend less time here. While you vote, of course, wear a mask, make sure your polling place is well ventilated, and bring your own pen or stylus for touchscreens. Don't try to disinfect a voting machine yourself. Some cleaning products can damage them. How big of a concern is the pandemic for you right now?
It's a big concern because I have a lot of health issues.
An unprecedented election requiring voters to be socially distant while being socially responsible. Gabe Gutierrez, NBC News, Milwaukee.
All right, coming up, were 2016 promises kept? How it could impact the critical battleground vote. Back now with Battleground Ohio, the state that's picked the winner in every presidential election for nearly 6 decades. Our Kate Snow spoke to voters there and found the key that could swing this election is all about jobs.
Voters in Northeast Ohio remember a rally back in 2017 with people weary from job losses.
Don't move. Don't sell your house. We're going to get those jobs coming back.
But in March 2019, GM closed its plant in Lordstown.
The president said, don't move, don't sell your houses.
Trish Amato, a single mom of 2, lost her job. She's watched families split and friends move away.
What were these people supposed to do? Who'd you vote for last time, you mind me asking? Trump. You did? Yeah.
Now she's undecided. She blames President Trump for relaxing emission standards, which pushed GM away from the smaller Chevy Cruze it made in Lordstown.
It allowed for GM to more easily shift to the large car market. I think that's really what killed us.
You don't blame the president for losing the GM plant here?
Not at all. I feel that was a business decision.
The mayor of Lordstown, Arno Hill, is a Trump supporter and focused on all the new jobs.
It's very exciting.
He took us to the old GM plant bought by Lordstown Motors.